welcome to Murder and Everything Else. My name is Joy.
And my name is Cheryl. And Joy and I are two very old friends who are going to talk about murder and everything else. So, Joy, you know what you have to be careful about when you get older or old?
Yeah.
Falling.
I was going to say falling what? Like falling trees?
Yeah, no. You falling, us falling as human beings. You could break a hip, you could break other things, and you can hurt your dog. So I was carrying Callie to the mailbox and cradling her in my arms, and I couldn't see my feet. And I was sure of where I was stepping, but I stepped off the sidewalk and it dipped down. And the next thing I knew, I was on my, well, I only know this because it was hurting later, my right knee. And I must have braced myself with my right hand because my right arm hurt later. But I didn't care about that. But Callie flew out of my arms, went tumbling off the sidewalk, screeching, and it broke my heart. She peed in my arms because she was in pain and she was probably so scared. And you're going to hear her through the whole episode, everyone, because she's sitting right next to me in a stroller that she's been in for like 2 weeks. But we're on the mend. We're on the mend. My heart is not quite fully healed because I felt so bad. And she had a couple of setbacks, which I won't get into, but I did want to kill someone at work. I actually called her the C word. And Joy would like to bring that word into our podcast somehow, but I'm not sure everybody likes, because I hate that word. I used to hate that word.
I can't wait. I can't wait to use it like organically one day in our podcast.
And the only time that I've used it, because I refrain from it no matter how mad I am, is when this fucking chick at work took the liberties of walking Callie all around on this long walk. When I wasn't there, she was in someone else's care, and Callie was in pain that night, could not put her back leg down. I had to go to the vet the next day, $300 later. But you know what? Shit happens. But my problem with this C person is
See you next Tuesday.
Is that she was not apologetic at all. So anyway, so try not to fall, you guys. Try to make sure you know where you're going. Also, I was wearing flip-flops.
So there's just two takeaways from this for me. One is that you probably should go shoe shopping to get some new shoes, because clearly the shoes that you were wearing were not adequate. And I'd be happy to offer my expertise if you need any recommendations or a personal shoe shopper. Hey. And number two, just a quick shout out to all of those people listening to this. When somebody approaches you and says, and accuses you of something, or says something you did made me feel a certain way, or like, like, remember back in the good old days when we were kids and you had to apologize for every fucking thing, even if you didn't do it? I'm not saying that people should apologize, but like, if you borrowed my car and it got a scratch, when I got outside, it had a scratch, and I came to you and I said, Cheryl, I loaned you my car and look, it came back with a scratch. I'm not saying you put the scratch on it. Somebody else probably put the scratch on. But wouldn't you say, I'm so sorry. I didn't hit anyone while I was driving, but I'll bet you I know what happens when I parked in the parking lot. Someone ran it. Like, how hard is it to say sorry for something? I don't understand unapologeticness.
No, like, so imagine.
It's like a general feeling of immunity for everything, and I don't like it. And I think it's really important to keep in mind that while you may feel like you were entitled to the decisions you made, if someone else approaches you and says, I didn't like your decisions or they somehow impacted me negatively, stepping outside of yourself and just being empathetic to another person's situation, I think, like, exudes a certain level of apology, right?
Well, yeah. So imagine if you had come to, but see now, I'm not trying. I know that there's that's my strange addiction, and people get married to their cars, but now equate it to a living thing. Okay, I'm trying. Callie was hurt, and she was on the mend, and this person did that, and I approached her very rationally and very calmly, and I asked her to tell me. I said, "What happened on Sunday?" And she's like, "With the dog." Um, and I said, "Yes, with Callie." And then she proceeded to take no responsibility for her decision. And I said, "Well, she was hurting that night. She couldn't put her leg down. I had to take her to the vet the next day. It cost me $300. I'm talking very rationally. Blank. It was like talking to a wall. So, anyway, so then my other friend, who shall remain nameless because, well, you tell me what you think of this, Joy, and all of our listeners. She was so flippant and like, it's kind of like, I don't know what to tell you, that type of attitude. Um, when I was talking to my other friend who was also involved in this, because I left Callie in her care for about half an hour, she said, "I think you should tell her I forgive you," and so on and so forth, and blah, blah, blah. And hopefully this will teach you not to take on someone else's dog without permission. And I was like, I texted her back and I was like, "I'm never talking to that fucking C again. The next time she hears about this situation, it'll be from HR and our executive director."
It'll
I
be
go,
from this fucking B.
because no, listen to me. People like that enjoy seeing someone else's pain. And so I'm like,
Whoa.
I told her, I go, I'm not putting myself in a position to let her behave the exact same way she did the first time. I'm like, no. I said, I only give forgiveness. Okay, you tell me what you think of this, Joy. I only forgive people that want to be forgiven. This whole thing about I had to forgive them so I
But
could go
how do
on with
you
my
know?
life.
But how do you really know if somebody wants to be forgiven? Here's what I think. I think that obviously this person became very defensive. And one of the things I know about like across the board defensiveness is it shows a real I mean, it's human nature to be defensive, first of all. But when we're unable completely to listen to what another person has to say and embrace where they're coming from and open ourselves up to that, to their communication and what they're asking from us, I feel like jumping straight to defensiveness shows a real lack of emotional maturity. A lot of
Exactly. Oh
times,
yeah.
what happens is when someone's very emotionally mature and has good communication skills, they can listen to what you're saying and actually empathize and put themselves in that situation and say, I could see how that would really upset you. And I hope that I didn't do anything to make it worse. And if I did, I really am sorry. I would never want to hurt your dog.
Yeah.
That would
Well,
have been a super easy, emotionally mature response from one adult to another. Because
yeah.
who wants to hurt a dog? Who
Well,
wants to hurt anybody?
so a soulless sea. Anyway, so there was another person sort of involved, and I cannot for some reason get the story straight. And she may have actually been the instigator, thinking she was doing Callie doing right by Callie, because Callie was crying and barking and she thought she had to go to the bathroom. Anyway, but this person came running out to my car when I was leaving that day. She was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. We didn't know. If I knew, we wouldn't have walked her, blah, blah, blah." I forgave that person immediately in my heart. And she may have actually been the instigator. I don't want to say instigator. She may have been the one to make the decision. And this other person,
The perpetrator.
and the other person was the one that actually carried out the
So
crime.
her her running out to your car was what we like to call in the industry a perp walk. I got some updates for you. And if you have not been on the socials, guess what? We are now available on Amazon Music and audible.com. What?
Yoo-hoo!
I know that's huge. That's huge. So, for those of you who have been listening, who are subscribers or who are new, you have so many places you can go and listen to this. It's not even funny. So, if you know someone who doesn't have Spotify and doesn't want to download the app for whatever crazy cockamamie bullshit reason, you tell them to head over to Amazon Music or to audible.com and they can listen to us there for free.
And free is my price. That's my.
And also, as if that wasn't enough news for our listeners, we have added a 10th country to our list of countries that we are being listened in. Drum roll, please, Cheryl.
Oh my God.
And that country is Spain. España.
Shout out to Spain.
Bienvenidos a mis amigos españoles. Gracias por su participación y por escuchar nuestro podcast. Thank you very much.
Oh, show off. Can you tell them to please write into Murder and Everything Else and ask them if they found us and what they think?
Si pueden, por favor, escribirnos, mandarnos un email a murderandeverythingelse@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you and let us know what you think. And also, I'm just wondering, Cheryl, Mexico is so much closer to us than Spain. Why aren't we being listened to in Mexico? So
I don't think geographical location is anything.
Yeah, to my Mexican brothers and sisters, por favor, listen to us. We'll give you an entire country a shout out. Anywho, Cheryl, you got any updates?
No, I'm gonna just we're gonna move on because I spent a lot of time. Well, that was my update. That I fell. Oh, Joy, you are no. Okay, I will give you an update. So I threw those. Yeah. We call them slippers in Hawaii, or as Joe Coy likes to tease us, slippers. We call them slippers in Hawaii.
Slippers.
I threw them out, even though I think they had nothing to do with my fall, but I'm going to blame it on them. So I threw it out, and I bought 2 shoes in the last week. I forgot to tell. I can't even believe I forgot to tell you.
Whoa!
Cute summer slip-on. They're by Vionic, which has arch support, and they're these little canvas like slip-on. You can't really call them sneakers, but like summer loafers. They're super cute. The black one has like white lace on it, and then I have a red one that doesn't have any lace, but it has these red poppy flowers all over. Super cute. I forgot to tell you. Anyway,
are they like little like Keds? Remember Keds from the 80s?
Yeah. I'll show it to you after. Yeah, aren't you proud of me?
Yeah, are you going to wear them with socks or without?
Oh, without, no doubt. And I've made the stock for Odor Eaters foot spray skyrocket because I use this foot spray powder thing that helps keep your feet dry in there. Nice. Anyway, yeah. Oh, I forgot. I can't believe I didn't tell you the shoe queen. I can't believe it. Aren't you proud? Aren't you happy?
I am so excited for you. And we need to move on to shout outs.
Okay.
I have a shout out for 2 great shows. I'm sorry. 2. One is on Netflix and it's called One Day. And it's really good. It's a rom-com. It's entertaining. It has 14 episodes and it doesn't always end up where you think it will. Although I did see the ending coming right before it happened. But for those of you who love rom-coms, One Day, it is so good. It's about a couple, like a guy and a girl who kind of almost have a hookup in college. And then basically it follows their lives for like the next 15 years and where it takes them. It's just, as friends, what they're doing in their personal lives. It's just really, really well done. So thank you, Netflix. It's from the UK. So that probably explains one, why I loved it. And number two, why it was so well done. Because I find a lot of like the American, like rom-commy stuff just so vapid and annoying. And then the other thing I want to shout out is the show Shogun on Hulu. For those of you who love, um, you know, like Asian dramas, if you love period piece stuff, Shogun was a book written by James Clavell. I don't remember when he wrote it, but I remember reading it in the 80s because there was a couple of steamy scenes that I keep going back to. I had dog-eared those pages, but it was a really big book. I want to say it was like 1,100 pages or some shit like that. But I loved it. It was so good, and I learned so much about Japanese culture. Anyway, I love this show.
Is this they had a movie with Tom Cruise or
Yeah, no, it wasn't that.
oh, okay. Anyway, go ahead.
But I've learned so much about like samurai and the shogun era and the culture and the history of like Japanese warlords and warfare and the mentality and where a lot of their very like distinctive cultural like their cultural strongly held cultural nuances come from and what makes them tick and why they do the things they do and what is of value to that culture. So, and the thing that's even better, Cheryl, is whenever the Japanese people in the show are interacting with Japanese people, it's always subtitled in English and in Japanese. So it feels so authentic.
Mm-hmm.
Because when they did a mini series of Shogun, I think in the late 80s, early 90s, and it was of course all in English,
Right.
So it just didn't feel quite as authentic.
Right.
Although I think technologically, and where we were in the 80s, it probably wouldn't have sold if it had been subtitled.
Correct. You're absolutely right. But because if the Japanese people were actually speaking to each other, they would have been speaking in Japanese. So it's just hard. You have to just, you have to just let that go, which is something that Warrior, the series Warrior on Max, I think it's on Max, they handled that and addressed it really well. So if you, spoiler alert, well, I mean, it's not like a huge spoiler, but what they did was, did you watch Warrior? Gabe did,
no,
right?
but Gabe did.
Okay, so they show them and they address it like right off the bat so that they can have the Korean people speaking English. And what they do is they have this scene and they whirl the camera around and they do this sound effect that, so they're speaking in Korean to each other and then they do this vortex thing and then they're suddenly speaking English to each other. And it's just to let you know that they're supposed to be speaking Korean to each other, but for the audience's ease, they're speaking English. And what I love is that they're speaking English to each other without accents. Because they would not be how do I say this? Because normally they would have been speaking to each other in Korean. They don't need to speak in English with an accent because that's just for, it's a little trickery for the audience. So there's no reason to have them have an accent. So I thought it was brilliant. I had never seen that done, and I thought it was great. But anyway, I'll have to check it out. I started watching it the other day, and I wasn't in the mood for it, so I went back to my horror movie.
My God. I have to tell you, I got 0 letters from our listeners, but I did get a new pair of shoes.
Oh, well, we're going to have to share them after.
Yeah, so between you and me, girl, and I'll tell you why. I have a concert. Okay, first of all, I got actually like 3 new pairs of shoes. But I have a concert on Sunday, and I have a dress that I'm going to wear to the concert, and I needed new shoes. You can't wear a new outfit without a new pair. It just doesn't feel right.
Right.
And
absolutely.
I don't know if you remember Pat and Mary Jane's.
Yes, of course. I love Mary Jane's.
Yeah, it's an adult take on platform Mary. They're like a little pair of platform Mary Janes with double straps across the top instead of single. And I have to tell you,
Oh,
as a
cute.
child, I was only allowed to wear my black Mary Janes to church. We called them our Sabbath shoes. We had Sabbath underwear, Sabbath dresses, Sabbath hats, and Sabbath shoes. And I have to say that uh, when I saw these, I was like, oh, those are so beautiful. I can't tell you how much I love a black patent. It's
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's so special. And the other two pairs of shoes I got gave me such bad blisters that I had to let my heels rest for 2 weeks so that I can even wear these shoes. So I wouldn't be hot.
Oh my God.
So
You.
that's letters from our listeners. For those of you who enjoy hearing about letters, no letters but shoes. All right. And this week we, if this sounds really shitty, are using a different format to record. So hopefully everything sounds great and we won't get a bunch of people saying, great, they're underwater again. But we are heading back to Red Rum.
Red Rum. Oh, I was going to say that too. Oh my God. We are on the same wavelength.
To Red Rum with Cheryl, the Red Rum specialist. So take it away.
The Red Rum lover. Okay, Joy, when we started this podcast, one of the things I wanted to do was discuss with you these murder cases that um, w- I've always been interested in, and I wanted to talk to.
It sounds like you have like a squeaky wheel in the background, or maybe
I
there's like a
do.
couple of chinchillas that are like mating or something.
I do have a squeaky wheel. It's called Callie.
Oh God.
Anyway, so one of the things is I wanted to talk to you and get your opinion and your thoughts on these cases.
Girl, I
What?
got nothing but opinions.
I've come to the right place. So
Yep.
I'm going to do a 3-part series. Today is the first part on, and I love this because I think it was CNN that named it "Keeping Up with the Petersons." Um, or what I like to call it, what's in a name? Because there's 3 Peterson murderers. Um, well, there's Michael Peterson, who we're going to talk about today, and it's up for debate whether he was guilty or innocent. But there's also Drew Peterson, and of course Scott Peterson. So I'm going to be talking about those 2 later. But today we're going to talk about Michael Peterson. And I want to know if you think he's guilty or innocent based on this information. Yeah. My sources are
Okay, bring it on, girl. Bring it on.
My sources are people.com, allthat'sinteresting.com, Variety, Vox.com, that's Vox with a V as in Victor, cinemaholic.com. So on a chilly December night in 2001, novelist Michael Peterson found his wife Kathleen Peterson lying at the foot of a narrow stairwell in their Durham, North Carolina mansion covered in blood. Durham
Hey,
police.
that's just down the road. That's just down the
I was going
road.
to say it's in your neck of the wood. Shit happens over there too.
Mm-hmm.
Durham police promptly charged Michael Peterson with Kathleen's murder. A few months later, a French documentary team arrived to film the course of Peterson's trial, little knowing they were about to witness one of the wildest cases on record and create an iconic true crime documentary series called The Staircase. You didn't watch this. Why am I bothering asking you? It was really good. Go back and watch it, you guys. It's really good. Initially released in 2004 with 8 episodes, the series became an acclaimed sleeper hit within the true crime community before gaining wider popularity amid the post Serial true crime boom. So, Serial is the podcast that talked about Adnan Syed. Do you know that
Oh
case?
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know the case, but I do remember people being obsessed with
Oh,
cereal.
you got to listen to it. So good. There's 2 recommendations: The Staircase and Serial podcast. 2 follow-up episodes on the case were filmed in 2011, with 3 more following in 2017 when the full series was finally released on Netflix. HBO Max also released a narrative series called The Staircase on May 5th, 2022, which is pretty recent, starring Colin Firth and Toni Collette as Michael and Kathleen. And I read that Michael Peterson, the real Michael Peterson, was not happy with how he was portrayed by Colin. I don't know if it was his acting that he didn't. I don't know if it was his acting that he didn't like, or
he probably felt like Colin Firth was way too hot.
Right. So Michael was born in Nashville, Tennessee in 1943 before moving to work for the U.S. Department of Defense after college. He later met his first wife, Patricia Sue, an elementary school teacher in West Germany. Okay, so try to keep this all straight. So this is his first wife, and they're in West Germany. They wed in 1968 and had 2 boys together named Todd and Clayton. After serving in the Vietnam War, Michael began to write novels and newspaper columns about his experiences following his honorable discharge in 1971. I'm like, blah, blah, blah. While living together, Michael and Patricia, okay, his first wife, became close with their neighbors turned friends, George and Elizabeth Ratcliffe. George died from a military accident in 1983, and in 1985, Elizabeth was found dead at the foot of her staircase with head injuries. Okay, this was their neighbors who became really good friends. But Michael and Patricia later divorced, and not long after, he moved in with telecoms exec Kathleen Atwater before they eventually tied the knot in 1997. So again, going back to the early morning, December 9th, 2001, Michael Peterson called emergency services to report that his wife, Kathleen Peterson, had taken a fall down a set of stairs in their home in Durham, North Carolina. According to Michael Peterson, he was having a glass of wine with Kathleen by the pool of his Durham, North Carolina home. Why do we have to keep saying that? Okay, after watching a Blockbuster rental. Remember Blockbuster?
Oh my God. She probably threw herself down the stairs because she realized that she had not been kind and she did not rewind. Remember that? Be kind.
Yes. And you used to get charged if you didn't rewind it. Oh my God. For people of a certain age. Do you remember that? Oh God. Isn't that funny? We think about things that we used to do. Anyway, they rented a movie called America's Sweethearts. Kathleen had been drinking wine and had taken a Valium, Michael later asserted, and he hadn't seen her for hours after she went inside the house while he remained outside reading. Only once he went inside at 2:30 a.m. did he discover Kathleen barely alive in a pool of blood at the bottom of the back staircase. He called 911.
Okay.
10 minutes later.
Time out. I gotta call bullshit. I just want you to know, I have fallen downstairs, okay? I have fallen downstairs and done the bumpity bump. I've also fallen down and caught myself. I have jumped at the last minute and cleared the bottom stair only to fall on my knees at the bottom. I mean, I've done all, because remember, I buy shoes based off what they look like, not on how they feel or fit. So how on earth do you end up at the bottom of the stairs in a pool of blood? If anyone out there listening can explain to me where the blood is coming from, I mean, unless most homes don't have 35 stairs in one long, and they're not, they don't have like jagged knives stuck upwards at the bottom of them.
Like they don't have staircases lined with spears that are
exactly like in the movie Rambo. So I need to know what the pool of blood is from.
Well, okay, so I don't know if it came out in the trial, I can't remember, but with all the stuff that I watched and read on this case, there was a case of some other woman truly did fall down the stairs. There was no suspicion of anything nefarious or foul play. And a head injury causes a lot of blood, and so she did hit her head, and there was a large amount of blood at the bottom of the stairs. So I just saying that I think I think it can happen. I mean, it's possible, right? So so Callie, okay. So during the 911 call, Peterson stated, "My wife had an accident. She's still breathing. She fell down the stairs." But by the time the emergency medical services and police arrived, Kathleen Peterson was dead. The autopsy immediately cast doubt on Michael Peterson's story. According to the report, Kathleen had suffered multiple blunt force trauma injuries to the head and neck.
That's exactly what I was thinking. That the reason there was a pool of blood was he smacked her about 60 times upside the head. Then he kicked her down the stairs. I mean, come on. Even if you fell and cut your lip, which is true, your head injuries do bleed more. They also heal more quickly than others. So if you fell and split open your lip, I could see there being some blood, but not pool of blood.
Well, it was bloody. I mean, there's blood going all the way down like the walls.
Were you there? How did you see this?
Oh God, joy the internet. The internet has everything.
You mean the Lizzie Borden photographs, which by the way, talk about a bunch of dumb pictures. I was like, first of all, those could have been stuffed animals. Number two, they were so grainy, I couldn't even see the people. Number three, they clearly had staged those photographs. They were not from the 1820s like we were talking about. Those were staged. Those photographs of Lizzie Borden's death, remember? There's no blood anywhere except for on his head.
Yeah, this, well, I don't know, maybe the camera didn't pick it up, but okay. So according to the report, Kathleen had suffered multiple blunt force trauma injuries to the head and neck. As a result, she bled to death between 90 minutes and 2 hours after the trauma occurred.
My wife went inside to pop another Valium and have some wine, which by the way, I've done on a flight from Toronto to San Francisco. And let me just tell you, if you want to stand up and walk anywhere up or downstairs, the last thing you want to do is pop some Valium and drink some wine. Okay? I am the test dummy for most of the things that you are outlining in the story.
Well, I'm glad you don't have any. Oh, you do have stairs in your home.
I'll tell you that he smacked her around, pushed her down the stairs, stabbed her a couple times, then waited for 2 hours until she stopped breathing, and then called
911. Okay. Well, you're going to hate.
I've already solved the case. Okay.
You're going to hate one of the theories that comes up, and then you're going to be even more bothered that I think that it's possible. Okay. So the autopsy led the police to classify the death as a homicide. Since Michael Peterson was the only one home at the time, he was the obvious suspect. The stage was set for one of the longest, strangest trials in American history. Well, that's next to OJ. The evidence against Peterson was spotty, but the investigators were confident that Kathleen had been murdered. While there was no obvious murder weapon on the scene that police could tie to her husband, the prosecutors believed that they could establish a motive. During the investigation, detectives discovered that Michael Peterson was secretly hiding his bisexuality. They discovered a collection of gay pornography in his possession and found that he had been emailing with a 28-year-old male escort. Though there was little evidence to support the idea. Though there was little evidence to support the idea, prosecutors latched on to the theory that Peterson's wife had found out about her husband's sexuality and started a fight that led to her death on the staircase. The district attorney brought the case to trial with a purported motive and the evidence that Kathleen Peterson had been murdered. Michael Peterson's sexuality was a crucial component of the prosecution's case, and they even called the escort. And
I don't believe that.
They even called the escort with whom Peterson had been communicating to the stand. What, you don't believe what?
I don't believe that for a second. Anybody who's listening to this, who's been married to the same person for donkey's years, like these two people had been married, know that there's a lot of things that happen inside the confines of a marriage that are like, you know what, that everybody's going to get a pass for something. You can't tell me that she just discovered after 40 years of marriage that her husband like to communicate with this 28-year-old male escort, that led to a fight where she got pushed down the stairs.
Okay, but you
I mean,
do think
I think she probably knew about it for years and was okay. I mean, you know, she's like, obviously, you know, that maybe it had something to do with the Valium in the wine. I mean, but
yeah, but okay, but you do think, you already have stated that you think that he murdered her. So what's the motive? I mean, that seems to have been, well, this is the thing. Okay, let's go on, because this is the problem. The evidence was spotty, right? As I said. So all they could latch onto was that he was bisexual, which is, that's, you can't hang
that's
someone
so
by
silly.
that. So
I
this
know.
is the thing. So let me tell you what happens. So halfway through the trial, okay, let me finish this before you
I would be sooner prompted to believe that the 28-year-old lover showed up and pushed her down the stairs and stabbed her and then ran away.
Okay, well, first of all, there was no stabbing involved, but she had blunt
No,
force
but
points
like
to the head.
smacked her up and down the head and then pushed her.
Smacked her upside the head. Okay, then halfway through the trial, a new theory emerged that could tie Peterson to another suspicious death at the bottom of the staircase. Do you remember what I said in the beginning?
The neighbor.
Peterson spent years in the military and had been stationed in West Germany during the 1980s. So I'm going to go back a little bit to what I said in the very beginning. He and his first wife, Patricia, remember, they met Elizabeth Radcliffe, who was the neighbor. On November 24th, 1985, Peterson was visiting with Elizabeth to help put her children to bed, which I find very strange. Okay, Michael Peterson is living with his wife Patricia. Okay, they're neighbors. This is in West Germany.
Yeah.
The neighbors are George and Elizabeth. Michael Peterson goes over to help Elizabeth put her children to bed.
Why would
I'm
you?
having shades of the Jan Broberg story. I mean, oh my God. The following day, Elizabeth is found dead at the bottom of a staircase. I mean, what are the chances that 20 years, or I don't know how long. I mean, I can't do math. Whatever amount of years.
Here's what I do know. If every place this guy's been, there's a lady who's been found like
Right?
stairs. Like, hi, what's the common denominator? This guy. Yeah. He likes to like smack women around upside the head and then push them down the stairs.
According to the German authorities, Elizabeth Ratcliffe died. Ratliff. Have I been saying Ratcliffe? I've been saying Ratcliffe the entire time. I apologize to the Ratliff family. I don't know why I was adding a C. I just have a C word on my mind. Okay. Elizabeth Ratliff died of a stroke. She had been known to suffer from frequent headaches. The Petersons adopted, okay, listen to this. The Petersons adopted Ratliff's children and took them back to the United States. Oh, that's right. Remember, the husband died. That's right. George died. So I guess that's why he went over to help her put the kids to bed. Although, why wasn't it Patricia? You guys, write in if you think there's a line between men and women, and when you're a couple, what is there a line that you feel, a boundary that you feel the sex should have? Yeah, like, okay, so sorry, I'm going off because I'm really interested. Please write in, you guys. So Michael is married to Patricia, and Elizabeth's living next door. Her husband has died, so Elizabeth's by herself. What do you think about Michael going over to help her with her kids as opposed to Patricia? I'm not saying Patricia didn't do it, but let's just keep this hypothetical focus just on this. What do you think of the husband going over to help her? Do you
Here's what I
think it's
think
appropriate?
happened. I think that Michael and
Elizabeth, we're doing the
No, I think Michael Peterson and Elizabeth Ratliff's husband had been in some kind of maybe like love triangle thing. And then when he went over, under the guise of helping her put the kids to bed, which was probably a lie, she had probably discovered either pictures or photograph. I guess a photograph is a picture. Pictures or letters, because this was before pictures, photographs, images, pictures.
Stuff like that.
My guess is that she confronted him and he came over under the guise of helping her and pushed her down the stairs and killed her. And then he married the next woman, but then she was out of the picture. They weren't married for very long. Then he married Kathleen. And then they adopted that family's kids, which is so freaking bizarre. I can't even tell you.
Okay, everyone, George's family out there, George Ratliff, allegedly, we are not saying this is.
No, I'm just saying, like, maybe that's what happened. I mean, that is one way of like, because the other thing is this, like, remember Oprah did that big deep dive on like men who are on the down low, and all these women came forward, and it was like, this was way before same-sex marriage became legal. This was way before, this was sometime between the AIDS epidemic and I feel like the Clinton administration. It was somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. Like that was the ballpark. And I feel like people, it was so salacious to think that like your straight husband could be like straight during the day, Monday through Friday, and then on Friday night he puts on, black leather and goes down to your local like secret gay bar and is like trolling for dates. And then bringing home, a lot of women were saying, not a lot, but the women on the show were saying that obviously they had found out that they had STIs as a result of their husband's infidelities. But it was so over the top and salacious. And then what ended up happening was everybody would equate like being on the down low with like, someone's running out, having sex with the same sex. And it was just, so gratuitous and almost like, I don't know. I know a lot of people think Oprah was like up there with like Jesus Christ, but I feel like she's no different than Dr. Phil. Mm-hmm. I mean, she literally drug these people out, splashed their stories all over the place, kind of. They turn into caricatures. Remember Tom Cruise jumping on her couch about how much homes, and guess what? They haven't been married for years.
Yeah, and that he will always go down in history for that moment.
That's the nutcase jumping on the sofa. So I just think, and also a lot of people's stories were splashed around. And then what happened? It wasn't like Oprah had psychologists and psychiatrists and financial advisors and a team of like professionals in the wings waiting to step in where she left off and scoop up these people and hold them close to their bosoms and protect them. No, they were now like basically left up to the world's scrutiny.
Yeah. Well, so that's very interesting. So you're saying that he possibly killed Elizabeth because she was going to reveal it to his wife?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know. Or reveal it to the military, because the other thing is, remember, the military has its own code of ethics. And if it was back then in like the late 80s, early 90s, it would have been don't ask, don't tell, which was a Bill Clinton thing. And also the military had their own tribunals. They took care of things in-house. This wouldn't have gone to a trial out on the street or out with a judge and jury. It would have been in a military court of justice. And if you are caught committing adultery in the military or sleeping with your commanding officer's wife or sleeping with anybody who's an enlisted officer's wife or husband, and basically, again, committing adultery, you can be dishonorably discharged to this day.
Yeah. Well, Okay, so let's get back. So the Petersons, so Michael and Kathleen, they adopt Ratliff's children, Elizabeth, who was at the bottom of the stairs, right? And they take the children back to the United States. And for the next several years, the incident with Elizabeth dying at the bottom of the stairs was all but forgotten. But Margaret Blair, Elizabeth Ratliff's sister, placed a call to the investigators as soon as she heard that Kathleen Peterson had also died at the bottom of a staircase. And she told them, "Are you aware that the same thing happened to Elizabeth Ratliff? And Michael Peterson was the last one to be with her." Ratliff's body Ratliff's body was then exhumed in Texas and transported to North Carolina for a second autopsy that concluded she had been murdered. So, I mean, that's incredible. She was buried and it was initially deemed an accident. And then now it's like, let's take a second look, and now it's murder. It's like,
I'm
whoa.
just curious, when they exhume bodies, do you happen to know what the timeline was? Like, how long was it from burial to being exhumed?
Well, she died in 80. Oh, God. You want us to do fucking math again?
Yeah! Woo! Bring it on!
Well,
Your two Asian aunties can't even count from 1 to 10 on their fingers.
she died on in 85, and this happened with Kathleen in 2001, and so I don't know how much longer.
16 years?
Yeah, it happened. Didn't I say 2001? That's 2001. So Elizabeth dies in 1985.
I don't know. I kind of call bullshit. How can you tell 16 years later with the decomposition process?
Right? I don't know. Maybe they use some good from formaldehyde. I don't know.
Formaldehyde.
Okay, so but the second autopsy concluded that Elizabeth had been murdered. There was nothing concrete to tie Michael Peterson to this murder, but the similarities between the two deaths were apparent. Ultimately, it was enough to convince the jury, and Michael Peterson was convicted and sentenced to life in prison in 2003 for the murder of his wife. According to Michael Peterson, the trial was a farce from the beginning. The prosecution had stacked the odds against him, he said. Though he was originally sentenced to life in prison, many appeals began soon after that. And his lawyers...
Oh, yeah, because we're always innocent, right?
Okay, so here comes... Now, I want you to let me finish this story before you say, hold on, okay? Because when I heard this, I'm sorry, call me gullible, okay? But I was like, strange things happen. That's why there's the term freak accidents, right? Okay. So his lawyer...
How did someone get bludgeoned on the head and then end up at the bottom of stairs and it'd be a freak accident?
Well, listen, his lawyers advanced some interesting theories to support his case during the appeal process. In 2010, the Durham News reported that they submitted 3 affidavits from experts stating that an owl had done it. Listen to me. According to the theory, Kathleen was attacked by an owl the night of her death and ran back inside only to fall and knock herself out on the bottom step. The combination of trauma from the fall and blood loss from the owl attack made her lose consciousness and led to her death. But as far-fetched as the hypothesis sounds, there is compelling evidence to support the owl theory of Kathleen Peterson's death. Some of her cuts resembled tridents, a shape similar to what would have been made by a talon's grasp. And Peterson's lawyer said that the crime lab had recovered a feather from her body and that her hair had traces of cedar needles and wood in it. The owl theory was not put forward at Michael's trial back in 2003 as his legal team was unaware of it. In 2010, the view of medical examiner Deborah Radish, who carried out Kathleen's autopsy, was that the owl or any other kind of bird would not leave wounds as deep as the ones found on Kathleen's scalp. But that was challenged by experts in 3 individual affidavits in 2010, which I just mentioned. Despite growing belief in the owl theory, no motion for a new trial was filed based directly on the evidence supporting it. Okay. The prosecution believed that Kathleen was likely killed with a blowpoke. A blowpoke is a fireplace tool. It has a hollow tube at the end, and the hollow tube is used to blow air to stoke the flames. Kathleen's sister said she had given a blowpoke to her sister. The blowpoke in Michael and Kathleen's house wasn't found by the police during the initial investigations. The missing blowpoke was eventually found by Michael's son Clayton in the garage of the house. The blowpoke was reportedly filled with cobwebs and bugs, which indicated that it wasn't apparently used for a while, which I want to talk about that. Kathleen's sister also said it was not the one she had gifted to Kathleen. The prosecution was never able to prove the blowpoke was the murder weapon, and to this day, a murder weapon has never been found. Before we go on.
First of all,
Okay.
I just have to say, whoever named that tool a blowpoke, I was like, how many times can you say blowpoke in a podcast? You're like, blowpoke, 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 blowpoke. I was like, blowpoke. I mean, was it the same guy who named all the other stuff at the hardware store that named it a blowpoke?
Screw gun. So listen, Joy, stranger, haven't you seen video of people being attacked by birds? And explain the feather. Explain the feather in her head and the cedar wood chips and whatever else was found in her hair.
Okay, I don't know, but I will say this. He was there. If she was running, screaming around the yard and an owl was chasing her.
What if they had a pretty big house? It sounds like they had a pretty nice house. He's out by the pool. She's getting closer to the house. He might not have seen it. And
she's screaming bloody murder because the owl is pecking her and clawing at her and chasing her around. And she's not 100, so she's running. I'll tell you right now, if I was being attacked by either a blowpoke or an owl, you could bet your sweet ass that you would hear it from North Carolina all the way to fucking Arizona. I would be raising all kind of hell. All the neighbors would come running. I mean, it's ridiculous. That's like the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Okay, but this is the thing. It's possible. What if she's not a screamer?
Yeah, it's also possible to die from eating a baby carrot because it gets lodged in your throat. But the fact of the matter is that he's now linked to 2 women who died by falling down the stairs.
Okay.
I mean,
but listen.
Fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. No, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
Okay.
I don't know.
But listen, no, you got it right the second time. Okay, but listen, some people aren't screamers. Some people are. We are project. No, listen. I'm trying to play devil's advocate.
Murdered by a flying bird or a blowpoke. Whatever.
No, it didn't say that the owl. It didn't say that the owl killed her. It's that it attacked her and then she fell down the stairs. Because what if she had the door open and it flew?
How'd she get to the top of the stairs while it was chasing her? I mean, I think
she's flailing. She's flailing. Okay, yeah. But tell me why she had bird feathers and cedar wood chips in her hair.
Well, I think that she was upstairs. Obviously, she was upstairs. So he could have tried to have smothered her by putting the pillow over her head first after he stabbed her, and that didn't work. The other thing they haven't adequately explained is, was there blood anywhere on the stairs going down?
Yes, on the walls.
Or any object upstairs. Okay. Because if there had been a bludgeoning upstairs and then a fall down the stairs, there would have been blood on other things besides the pooling at the bottom of the stairs.
Most of it was the pool down the stairs.
I don't believe the Cheryl, I have feathers on me right now. And I don't have a fucking bird.
Oh my God. And you live on North Carolina. You live in North Carolina. So guys, exactly. if you move to North Carolina, expect to have feathers on you. Okay.
Exactly. I mean, we have feathers in the couch. We have feathers in the throw pillows. We have feathers in our pillows. We have feathers on the bed. I mean, there's feathers everywhere.
That is okay. All right. Well, you're starting to convince me that it wasn't an owl. But here, this is something that has come up in other cases.
Could you say More time, please.
Yes, I am actually going to say it. So stay tuned. This is the thing. So there was like some suspicion because it was like, how could the cops have missed the blowpoke? Ding, ding. Every time I say blowpoke, take a drink of your coffee. They didn't find it in the garage. You know, shit happens. Maybe they missed it. Maybe they're having an off day. But then it's found later by his son. It's found later by his son. And it says the blowpoke, ding, 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 was reportedly filled with cobwebs and bugs, which indicated that it wasn't apparently used for a while. Now, I have seen cobwebs come up overnight. Haven't you? A spider can spin a web in a few minutes. I have gone.
Oh yeah, especially here.
So I find that statement ridiculous. It doesn't have to be used. It doesn't have to be sitting for a long time for there to be.
Well,
cobwebs.
if it was filled with a cobweb, but it says cobwebs plural and bugs.
I don't care. I don't think it.
No, Cheryl, it wouldn't be full of bugs if it was just there for like an hour or two or so.
No. Listen.
It would have had to have been there for months.
Well, they didn't find it at first, and I didn't see anything on how long it was before his son found it. But it wasn't immediate. So it was there for a little while after the murder or the death.
Well,
but
I'd be interested. I'd be interested to see how he behaved on the stand. Was he crying? Was he remorseful? Was he emotional?
Okay, so in August 2010, following a series of newspaper articles critical of the State Bureau of Investigation, North Carolina Attorney General Roy Cooper led an investigation.
Who, by the way, is now the governor of North Carolina, Roy Cooper. Thank you.
Wow.
Woo!
Well, listen
he knows their politics. I do.
Well, well, he led an investigation which resulted in the suspension of SBI, which is State Bureau of Investigation, analyst Dwayne Deaver, one of the principal witnesses against Michael Peterson, after the report found his work among the worst done on scores of flawed criminal cases. Deaver was fired from the SBI in January 2011 after an independent audit of the agency found he had falsely represented evidence in 34 cases, including withholding negative results in the case of Greg Taylor, a North Carolina man who spent 17 years in prison on a murder conviction based on Deaver's testimony. False conviction, people who spent like decades in prison have just tear at my heart. Innocent people that have spent. I just watched one the other day. I'm gonna have to do it because he was finally exonerated, but not after he spent like over 20 years in prison for a crime he didn't commit. That just kills me. That's Callie, my squeaky wheel. So that year, Michael Peterson was granted a new trial and released on bail. In 2017, Michael Peterson entered an Alford plea whereby he maintains his innocence, but admitted the district attorney had sufficient evidence to convict him. Taking into account the 8 years prison had already served, the judge ordered his release. According to Peterson, taking the plea was a hard choice. He said that he decided to take it after his son told him, "You'll never win. Pick up your chips and go home." And Michael Peterson tells WRAL in 2017, "I can live with this. It's not fair. It's not right. I'm innocent, and yet I've got this verdict here." Kathleen's sister, Lori Campbell, felt differently. "It's wrong that after a jury sentenced him to life in prison for the murder of his wife, he gets to be a free man while Kathleen lies in her grave." Michael Peterson has spent the last 20 years explaining the death of his wife, Kathleen. Peterson retreated to Durham, North Carolina after his release. His life has been dissected and picked apart by the media for almost 2 decades, and it was high time he got some much needed privacy. The case that dominated such a large part of his life still haunted him, however, and in 2019, he self-published 2 books, one called Behind the Staircase and another one called Beyond the Staircase, that detail his side of the story.
I'm sorry. It should be called like
The Staircase again?
The book should be called Laying at the Foot of the Staircase.
It should be called Another Staircase.
It should be called what the fuck happened on the staircase, or like tripping down the staircase. Like, I can't even tell you. There's like an entire comedy routine about the staircase and this guy.
Oh my God. God, the riches he had before the incarceration no longer exist. He missed out on Kathleen's life insurance policy, and his stepdaughter, Caitlin, filed a wrongful death suit against him. Caitlin initially showed support of Michael's innocence. She says, "My mother and Mike had an absolutely loving relationship, and there is no way that either of them would ever wish any sort of harm on the other one." But Caitlin began to grow suspicious of Michael during the trial, eventually becoming a key witness for the prosecution. In 2008,
You know why? Because where there's smoke, there's fire. So
and
the fact of the matter
birds, where there's feathers, there's birds.
I mean, the fact of the matter is like, I mean, please point me in the direction of somebody. Like, I can't even tell you. It's like people who go to prison. It's so like my cousin told me once. She's like, everyone in prison is innocent. Like, you hit anyone up, and they'll have like, oh, remember that guy we interviewed? I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. I'm like, you're telling me.
What? But maybe he had two people in his life that fell down.
We're really clumsy. Really clumsy.
They were wearing flip-flops, or as we call them in Hawaii, slippers. Okay, so in 2000,
when they do the SNL recreation, they're all, excuse me, what happened to the first one? Say, damn, those bitches be clumsy.
Oh God. Okay, in 2008, Caitlin filed a wrongful death suit against Michael, which the two later settled for $25 million.
Oh, and you know what? Settling means I thought all his money was gone.
Well, so Michael donates the proceeds from his book to charity, as he wouldn't be allowed to keep them for himself. He also opines that by agreeing to pay, he would be admitting to murdering Kathleen. You know, sometimes it's not that they can pay up, right? It's what you said. Was it our last episode? It's all the only retribution you can get is a monetary or a sentence. It's kind of just a statement, right? It's the fact that they settled. She's like, great, he's admitting that he's guilty. Mm-hmm. That's what it would look like, right? Anyway, so Michael lives a modest life in Durham, North Carolina. Joy, you might run into him one day. He enjoys a secluded life with the occasional media appearance to again discuss that fateful staircase.
But listen to this. I just quickly Googled, where is Michael Peterson now? And it says he resides in Durham, North Carolina, but has since sold the house where Kathleen died. The house was on the market for $1.9 million, according to ABC News. He had been living with his ex-wife, Patricia, for 2 years until her death from, dun, 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 a heart attack. His son, Clayton, told the News and Observer in 2021.
Well, you don't think the heart attack was a heart attack?
I don't know. I guess there's always an autopsy.
Well, he's a free man, y'all. Do you think he should be behind bars? Because of this Alford. What do you I was born in Georgia. What do you think of this Alford plea? It's basically saying, I'm not admitting guilt, but I know you have enough evidence to find me guilty. I find it interesting. I find this thing interesting. I wonder how it even came about.
Yeah, I wonder. Also,
I guess we could look it up on this thing called the internet, but
I find it so interesting that Patricia was like, yeah, that guy, that couple we knew, his wife ended up at the bottom of the like maybe the house in Durham, North Carolina was just like a one level. She's like, well, I don't even want to step up to the kitchen or step down to the garage, and then so we didn't even have the backyard. Like,
no.
He took all the steps out and put ramps in. She's all, well, he could roll me down the ramp, but that's about it.
And she's like, he's never, oh, sorry. Oh, stop it. And she's like, I'm never stepping on a step ladder or step stool or nothing with the word staircase.
Right. He's like, hey, you want to go to the local YMCA and take step class? She's all, no, thank you.
Hey, you guys, please write in if you think there's any credence to the owl theory. Please. I just want to know.
Okay. Well, I will tell you this, and you're going to love this. And apparently, one of my kids hit an owl driving.
Oh, no, don't tell me that.
Yeah. And
was it flying or was it on the road or what?
I don't know, because someone else mentioned, oh, well, I hope she doesn't have any more incidents where she's hitting owls in the car. And I'm like, I don't even know this story. So I got to ask her when she comes home about the owl story. So maybe we got a real problem with owls out here.
Right? Oh my gosh. I want to hear. You gotta let me know what happened.
So, to all our listeners out there, stay tuned, because next week I'll talk about the owl. Maybe, Cheryl, maybe it's the same owl.
Oh my God. Oh, you guys though, write in with your thoughts.
We can come up with a new idiom. It's like the things that owls would say if they could talk. And it'll literally be about Michael Peterson. You know, he still does public appearances now and then to talk about this situation. He's now 80 years old and lives alone in a ground floor apartment.
I'm sorry. Oh, that's so bad.
I'm gonna have to go watch The Staircase because
it's really good.
It has Colin Firth in it, and I gotta tell ya.
Oh, I didn't see that version of it.
Enjoy me some Colin Firth, but
I know you do.
Mostly thanks to Pride and Prejudice. You know, the BBC 6-part series from like the 80s.
The one that she got me to watch, she tried to get me to watch, you guys. I was sick out of work for an entire week, and I tried 3 times.
It made her
sick. I did. That's when I started throwing up.
Oh my God. I'm just going to tell you, no one wears a codpiece like Colin Firth.
Oh, God. All right. Well, on that note.
Well, you know, this was a heinous crime, whether it was committed by an owl or by a man or by whatever, by a very long staircase. But you know
what? And a blowpoke.
Yeah, and a blowpoke. But you know what else is a crime?
What's that, Joy?
That we are out of time.
That is a crime. Well, thank you so much for listening, everyone, and don't complicate your day. All creativity, commentary, and opinions in this podcast belong to Cheryl and Joy. Music composed and mixed by Gabe McKeon. Logo and merch created and managed by Kevin Callan. Podcast editing and advertising by Joy McKeon. Legal representation provided by John Bojezek. Please like, subscribe, follow, and listen. You can listen to us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, you can find us on Instagram and YouTube, and you can email us at murderandeverythingelse@gmail.com.
Bye, fishes.